Hello and welcome to today's video. Today we're looking at the Boomerang Mk1 and Mk2. The Boomerang Mk1 and Mk2 are both Battle Rating 3 aircraft in the British tech tree. They're both premiums. These two aircraft are actually Australian, not British, and are rather similar to the Wirraway. Unlike the Wirraway, however, these are primarily fighters, not attack aircraft, or perhaps bombers, or the sort of multi-role aircraft that the Wirraway happens to end up being. Both the Boomerangs are fairly similar, with the only difference being that the Mk2 climbs slightly faster than the Mk1. In fact, the difference is so little that I'm fairly sure you can only see the difference when you measure it by feet. I don't think it actually shows the difference in climb rate when you measure it by meters per second. There's only one big difference other than that. That being that the Mk2 can carry bombs. It can carry two 250-pound bombs, which are fairly effective, especially using a fighter aircraft. I mean, you can aim them fairly well. The Boomerang Mk1 and 2 are both rather slow aircraft for their tier. They're pretty much outpaced by almost everything. However, they do handle very well. Of course, they'll still be outturned by something like a Zero. However, they're a lot more durable than a Zero. But they will outturn anything like a Corsair or a BF-109. They are surprisingly maneuverable and can win dogfight with anything that essentially isn't a Zero. Now, in terms of armament, other than the ability to carry bombs, the armament's the same. Both of them have 4 machine guns, 7.7s, and have two 20mm cannons. These 7.7s have 4,000 rounds of ammunition, plenty enough to do anything you may need to do. However, the cannons have 120 rounds of ammunition, so you will always run out of ammo with these things, and it's really annoying, especially when the other weapons you have are wing-mounted 7.7s, making them quite hard to actually kill things, especially if you go up against something that is very durable or well-armoured. This aircraft also happens to have fair bits of armour itself. Bulletproof glass in the front, a protected seat with sidings to the seats as well, made out of steel, and then the fuel tank itself actually has its own case, which is angled at the back quite heavily to try and prevent light machine gun fire from penetrating it and hitting the fuel tank. The fuel tank's also self-sealing, meaning that fires don't inherently mean you're going to die. So, let's see how this thing does in a battle. We'll start with the Boomerang Mk1. So we start with the Boomerang Mk1. The Boomerang Mk1 is pretty much the same as the Boomerang Mk2 as I mentioned earlier. Now, we've spotted this Corsair, and the Corsair is faster than us in a dive. It has more durability than me. It can also pretty much outgun me. However, instead of using it as a speed advantage, what he does is he dives around and starts turning while he's in his dive, losing that speed advantage, allowing me to just put rounds into him. I'm not missing him, by the way. This is just because the 7.7s don't do that much damage, and I'm being very sparing with the cannon ammo because there's so little of it. When I'm hitting him, it's just tickling him a little bit. We get a crit there, and knock his pilot out when we fire the cannons. Next up is a P-40E1. Again, another American, very durable fighter aircraft. It basically performs in a very similar way to the Corsair, and we start chasing him. As you can see, he starts doing silly maneuvers, like pulling up like that. It makes him a very clear shot for me. I can just fire my cannons, knocking him out with just a bit of cannon fire and a bit of machine gun fire. Easy kill. Then we've got the P-63A5, another American aircraft, a bit less durable really than the other two. And he is a bit of a higher battle rating. I think he goes a little bit quicker, has better armaments, some cannons and stuff. But again, maneuvering around me, I get very easy shots on him because he won't stop maneuvering rather than trying to use his speed. If these American fighters were using their speed, they would get away from me, but they're not. They're turning, they're losing lots of speed when they could be doing a straight dive. It would expose them to a little bit of fire for a small amount of time, but they would get that distance from me and they would survive. But here you can just see, without my cannons, I can just spray them with those machine guns that have 4,000 rounds of ammunition. I'm not going to run out of ammo, but he is sure as hell going to run out of engine power. slowly falling out of the sky, and I'm catching up with him because his engine is behind the pilot. Is an easy place to hit the engine with my machine guns. He's really losing power here, and then loses his pilot because he makes a maneuver when he's panicked, running out of engine power. We get one last kill in this game, again against a Corsair. And again, as you can see, the Corsair's making maneuvers, and it's really not a good idea when something like this is coming towards you. He makes another maneuver, making a very easy shot for me with my machine guns and cannons, obliterating him, and that shows just how effective this aircraft can be in a battle. Of course, we had a bit of an advantage, being that the people we're shooting at were not the best pilots ever. They didn't know what their aircraft did or how to best use their aircraft. If they knew what they're doing, there's a good chance I wouldn't be able to kill any of them. But that's not what happened. So, let's next move on to the Mk2. So here's the Mk2. It's very similar to the Mk1, it can climb slightly faster. That's the only difference other than the bomb load. Obviously we're not taking a bomb load to go fight enemy aircraft, so the only difference is the climb rate. We start head-onning the 0, we do take a lot of hits, and actually lose engine power. Not all of it, about half engine power, giving us a similar amount of engine power as a Wirraway. Now, we're starting to look around for targets, and we are, of course, trying to gain a bit of speed from these maneuvers. You know, we're losing speed here because I'm making a mistake, but you see me go down. The reason I want speed is because my end is dead and I want to be able to jump into people. We spot someone beneath us in a LA5F. A pretty easy kill because, as you can see here, he's just in a bad spot. He's just got a massive energy disadvantage and he turns and gets absolutely obliterated. I've got plenty of speed to make us turn around on the enemy behind me, and he's an Italian aircraft. Had his wing out, also setting him on fire. He's very dead. Problem is, he knocked out my engine fully. I later on just go to crash in the river because I just have no engine. So, as I said before, the Mk2 can actually carry bombs, which means it can also work in a close air support role. So I'll show you a video also of it in a ground battle. So when we're approaching the ground battle, we spot enemy Stuka. Of course, we don't want him harassing our own team, so we go for him. He's a very easy kill. He's got two big 37mm cannons under both of his wings. He can't maneuver at all compared to what we can, even when we're carrying the bomb load. So it makes him for a very easy kill. He's also a very big target. Very easily just burst him with the cannons, and his aircraft falls from the sky. We then start flying towards the battlefield again looking for targets, and this enemy anti-aircraft gun starts firing at us, and of course we just return fire. We don't bother using the bombs because he's such a soft target that the high explosive ammunition on the 20 mils tear him to bits. So then we start to maneuver around. We've still got the bombs on us. We want to find a target which we can bomb that won't just be killed by machine gun fire. So when we're coming back here, we can see around the middle of the map there is actually a light Soviet tank. He's not a very quick one, making him an easy target. We drop the bombs, land right next to him, knock him out. Very easy kill, and as you can see, this aircraft is very easy to bomb with because it maneuvers so well. We're going in again towards the same sort of area, the middle of the map. Some BT-7 starts firing at me, so I go to bomb him. Funnily enough, I didn't actually spot the Su-76, which I also killed, but we got him as well. A double kill. Beautiful. But it doesn't end there, because we still have an enemy aircraft who is flying around, and of course we don't want to leave an enemy aircraft in the air, especially not something like a Stuka, who has a good ability to attack ground units. I say good, but a pretty much perfect one. Like very, very good dive bombers. And then we go and land. So as you can see, this aircraft is pretty good. The Mk1 obviously can't carry the bomb load, but it still is effective in a air combat role. But I don't actually believe that you can buy the Mk2 anymore. I bought it back when it was available. It was an extension of the Mk1 on the tree. So if you bought the Mk1, you could buy the Mk2. You can't do that anymore, I don't think, but I think when it is Australia Day, I don't know when that is, they'll put it back on sale. They did it last time, so it still is something you can get, you just have to keep your eye out for it. But the Mk1 is always there. So let's look into the history a little bit. As the Japanese Empire came closer to the dominion of Australia, the realization that the war would be brought onto the beaches of Australia became all too real. With this realization of the imminent threat came the need for an effective aircraft design for the defense of the homeland. Australia already had domestic aircraft production with the CAC Wirraway. However, the Wirraway was rather outdated, so came the development of the CAC Boomerang. The Boomerang reused much of the Wirraway's design, but with a smaller aircraft with double the engine power, a much more capable aircraft was born. The Boomerang went into production without a single prototype being made, with only around 16 weeks from when the aircraft was approved by the government to when it had its first flight. Before the first flight of any version of the Boomerang happened, there was already 5 Boomerangs in production, which is very unusual in typical aircraft development. Usually you'd make a design for an aircraft, test it, then put it into production, not the other way around. A total of 250 Boomerangs were produced with 3 main models, the CA-12, the CA-13, and the CA-19. There was also an experimental Boomerang called the CA-14, which was turbocharged. This aircraft was further developed into the CA-14A. Despite the Boomerang being widely used, it had no air kills. Funnily enough, the Wirraway did, but the Boomerang didn't. However, this can be explained as during its time in service, it was mainly used in home defense role. It was also used for marking targets for artillery, or marking targets for better equipped close air support aircraft to attack. Also, something I found strange about researching the history of this is that the name Boomerang Mk1 and Boomerang Mk2 don't seem to really come up many other places. It does mention Mk1 and Mk2 on Wikipedia, but its source is a book that I can't seem to find. The sources that I'm using to research this both refer to it as the CA-12 and the CA-13. Those two sources will be linked down in the description, and those sources happen to be rather reliable. They are, one, being the Royal Australian Air Force, and considering that they operated them, I think they know what the aircraft is called. The other one is the Australian Government Civil Aviation Safety Authority, essentially where if you own an aircraft, you register it to this authority, and this is a public document. You can search and you can find full names of aircraft. They're always referred to as CA-12 or CA-13. Sometimes it'll have the word Boomerang on the end, but it never says Mk1 or 2. Having these two official sources on the name being CA-12 or CA-13 kind of just says that War Thunder copied it from Wikipedia. Maybe there's something I'm missing, maybe it's in that book that I can't find. If you have any other sources on it, please tell me. So, all that's left to do is put on the leaderboard. So, obviously the air leaderboard's small, so we're just going to lay it out like this. The Firecrest at the bottom, the Boomerang Mk1 above that, and the Boomerang Mk2 above that, and the Wirraway is still on top. Now, the Boomerang flies better and has better armaments in terms of guns than the Wirraway, but the Wirraway still has a much better bomb load than the Mk2, and is a way lower battle rating. In fact, for close air support, it's still better at the sorts of battle ratings that the Boomerang is at. Obviously for fighting enemy aircraft, the Boomerang is way better. It's faster and it's better armed. However, if you're wanting to bomb people, the Wirraway is the way to go. So, thanks for watching. I hope I can get a video out within a reasonable amount of time next time. I don't know when that'll be, anytime soon or not, I don't know. But thanks for watching, and goodbye.